My wife was in Waterloo, Iowa with me, of course, and she was working at a construction company. She was she was a bookkeeper, and she was helping with the finances, and she would go to work every day, and over time, her spiritual life started struggling. And one of my wife's favorite practices is when she's like not feeling very close to God, and she's saying, man, I don't know if God's here. Her traditional way of reconnecting was she would spend time with God, and this is how she said it. She said, I like to spend time with God until I feel like he's hugging me. Right? And I think that's cute. I was like, oh, that's so cute. She's my wife. I'm like, oh, I love you. You're the best, right? Well, she said, I like to spend time with God until I feel like Jesus has hugged me. Remember that line, Jesus has hugged me. Well, she was struggling spiritually, and being a pastor's wife is stressful for her. It's stressful for me to see the pressure sometimes, and life is hard. She's busy at work, and we have, lots of things going on, and it got to be a lot, and she was feeling very distant from God. And I was talking to her, we were praying about it. I mean, what was it, 2 or 3 weeks, my love, probably? Yeah, it was hard. She was feeling far from God. She kept praying. She would spend time, an hour, on her knees, reading, praying, thinking, and God, I don't feel close to you. God, I don't feel close to you. But what she didn't know is that God was trying to show her that something more profound. She went for 3 weeks feeling far from God. Finally, one day on a Monday, she shows up to work. And Barb, the secretary at the office, walks in to her desk. They were kind of in 2 separate rooms. So Barb kept walking. She did this like 3 times. Barb's not a very religious or spiritual, outgoing person at all. Like this, you would not expect anything spiritual from her, but this is what happened. Barb walks into the room, and she looks at my wife like she has something to say. Oh, she ignores it. She can't. She goes and she sits back down. She's scared. An hour later, she comes back into my wife's office, gets a little closer this time, and she kind of brings up some random topic, but she has something to say. She ignores it. She runs off. Finally, the 3rd time, she comes back and she says, she gets the courage and she says to my wife, she says, Myra, I feel like I have something to tell you. She said, I had a dream, right? It was a dream on Saturday night that Jesus came up to you and he gave you a hug and he said that he loves you. And then he told me that I needed to tell you that. Right? Now, okay, I tend to be one of those more intellectually focused kind of spiritual people. I like to read the Bible and know the Greek and think, but I thought to myself, my wife needed to see that Jesus answers prayers in a lot of ways. That Jesus was there while she was praying during those 2-3 weeks. And even though my wife didn't think she had an answer, God was there. Jesus was there. And she needed to see and to feel it from another person. If it would have come from me, I think she would have said, sure, Josh, you're my husband. You probably dream about me all the time. But Barb doesn't even go to church. Who's Barb, right? But God worked in Barb's life, and Barb was willing to listen, and Barb was willing to walk in and tell my wife, hey, Jesus loves you. And he wants to hug you just like a father would. And I thought to myself, that's beautiful. Prayer is powerful. Prayer changes lives and changes our hearts. It even worked in Barb's life through my wife, through her prayers.